Hello, Almost in Focus. This is episode we don't know. Well, I
21.
don't know. 21. I'm going to claim that I'm allowed to not know because check out where I am.
Yeah, you've had a very inventive few days, haven't you?
Yeah. So I've had a bit of surgery, as we knew it was coming. So it's not. Don't panic, people. It wasn't, a rush job this time. There was actually some planning involved. Um, I have been photographing, so my XA is over there. I've had the meta glasses out, and the Osmo, much to the sort of bemusement of all the medical professionals. Um, but yes, so we're now day
So,
whatever. I don't know how many days ago. What's today?
uh,
Saturday for me.
yeah, so Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days on.
3 days since surgery, so it's been eventful. So I got lots of pictures to show people, filmed process, which is all good. But yes, unfortunately, it did mean I missed recording the Laura Noble episode, but I don't think anyone needed the doped up version of me on a podcast. Um, there is footage of me post surgery, which will not make its way to the internet, I don't think. But how would you describe the footage of me talking the other day?
Very high.
Yeah, I was rather out of it, but I was convinced I was perfectly fine. I don't think I'd have done a very good podcast. That was
No,
probably not.
I will say compared to the first surgery,
Mm,
so that was what, a year and a half ago,
yeah, yeah,
thereabouts.
yeah.
Yeah, you were much more coherent in the video clips I've seen this time.
Yeah, so wasn't singing this time so much.
No, I was a little bit
So
disappointed there wasn't a little pill pot bouncing in your head again.
no, I haven't been wearing random things as hats this time. So the guests, those of you on YouTube, will be pleased that we waited till I managed to be able to dress myself before we had any videos. So you haven't got me in my NHS gown. So whether
No.
that's a win or not, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad to see you recovering so quickly.
Yeah, well, this is it. We've had a few drama moments, but nothing too dramatic that can't be solved by sticking my legs in the air and breathing into a paper bag. I think mostly. So yeah, I'm hopefully going to be going home tomorrow or Monday, which will be nice, and then we're recording an episode next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, yeah.
So I should be up and running for that. So panic not, people. I haven't been fired from Almost in Focus.
No, but Ben does a very good job at filling in.
Yes, he's a good substitute teacher. I understand everyone behaved and there was no demerits given out. Um, so yeah, well, that was our sort of. I guess that was my little update. How's your photographic week been?
I've been teaching myself 3D printing with the help of Will, who I work
Mm,
with. Um, so we designed a little cold shoe about a year ago for medium format cameras to hold a light meter on the lens. And they're available on Analog Wonderland, and they're going to be on my website as well soon. But because of my new camera,
we.
I've been working on a twin lens version of it, and it's pretty much there. So that should hopefully be making its way to the internet in the next week or so. Is the plan.
Nice.
So yeah, but otherwise, not much photographic from me. Yeah, and well, obviously, and this week's podcast, which was, well, you're about to listen to it or watch it, unless you've switched off already.
Rude. Which would be rude.
Very rude. He's in hospital. Come on, give him a
Yeah,
break.
come on. We want sympathy. We want sympathy likes and shares and subscription now.
Which was a really interesting chat with my old boss, Laura
Hmm.
Noble,
Yeah.
gallerist, curator, art world advocate, writer, and she doesn't give all her secrets away because obviously that's she makes a lot
Yeah.
of her living through mentorship and portfolio reviews,
Mm.
but there's some really useful guidance amongst all our usual kind of waffle. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Check it out. I'm going to go have a listen.
there we go. All
Yeah.
right, good to see you again, mate,
Yeah.
and
See.
enjoy the episode.
Well, see you later, folks. Bye.
Okay, we are recording. Hello, it is episode 21 of Almost in Focus. I'm not with Toby for a change. He is currently recovering from his latest operation, so he's sadly not here tonight, but we are joined by Ben in his stead.
Hello.
From episode 2?
2, yes.
Episode 2. And we have a guest tonight, which is my old boss.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes,
And we're still
Laura Noble.
speaking.
We're still speaking. You
Hello!
invited me to your wedding.
I did, of course. In fact, someone else who used to work for me was my bridesmaid. So yeah, I'm generally on speaking terms with pretty much everybody I've worked with, which is a good sign because I think
That's
that's
good.
sometimes rare. So yeah, depending on what industry you're in. But yeah. So I'm
So
lucky I've had some smashing people to work with. So it's all good.
Sorry, tea break. Hang on.
Tea break sounds good. I like that you've got a branded mug as well. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
very,
Oh, yeah.
very nice. Very
Where's the
sweet.
t-shirt, Tom? You need the t-shirt.
I do have a t-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Baseball caps, merch. You need merch.
Fridge
No,
You need
magnet.
merch.
We do have t-shirts, but we saved them
I
for
love
like
a
photography
fridge
show.
magnet. That's
Okay.
my weakness, in a museum is a fridge magnet.
For
Do
me,
you
it's
like a good
postcards.
fridge magnet? Yes, but also I've only got so much space to put them up. Where the magnet, it's there. Like the fridge is quite a delight. It's got to be pretty good to go on our fridge, though. So it's very arty. Our fridge. Our fridge looks like a gallery.
Is it the gallery fridge?
Pretty much, yeah. It's got a few comedy gold things on there, like a very tacky one of the Pope, which I got in Rome on a honeymoon, which looks like it's cut from granite, which is so bad it's superb. And we've also got a baguette pen on there, which is quite tremendous. Fake food is a bit of a favourite. But yes, there's a lot of arty magnets, let's say. Yeah, some cool ones, but also some quite, cheesy numbers.
Okay, so art magnets. What makes it to the fridge?
Somebody I really adore, like an artist I love, or an image that's like a favorite, has been a favorite for a long time, or it makes me smile, or it's got a point. So like there was a show that was on at Chatsworth House, and the family had these amazing jumpers made for the men, sort of Argyle things,
Yeah.
fancy cricket jumpers or something, but they all had these phrases on them, and they're great because they're things that there was sort of a snub at the person who was gifted them, and they were quite good. So it's telling you things that you probably should listen to, things like that. But yeah, I mean, the most recent one I've picked up, I think, was a Tracy Emin or a Marilyn Monroe from the National Portrait Gallery show, which didn't like, but it had one of my fave images that was taken of her at Misfit during the Misfits, because I've got a Misfits contact sheet that was Eve Arnold's, which has got chinograph marks on it from Monroe. So I'm like, that would have been interesting. I think I've got some sort of acid. Oh, I've got some Della ones on there, I think, as well, which are kind of cool. Bits and pieces, like travels as well. Like if it's the show that I've seen in another country that I absolutely loved. And things like owl magnets from way back when, which are probably like collector's items now. I've got things from Arl that go back to the early 2000s, which are fab, when they used to have the illustration and ironically didn't have a photograph on their branding. So things like that are kind of a bit, I'm a bit of an old sentimentalist, really. But my book collection's probably the thing that's the most obsessive, because that's where everyone starts, right?
Well, I see Ben's nodding, and we had a long chat before about photo books. For me, it's a postcard. That's kind of where I started.
It's a visual memory of something, isn't it? It's like it's the closest, it's like, well, I can't afford that print, so the nearest I'm going to get, and actually to have it on display is really nice. I've got these wonderful, they're sort of art I got them in Amsterdam actually, and then you can slot the cards in they're sort of arcs,
Yeah, I know
and
the
they're
thing.
great
Yeah.
because they just sit in front of books. And I mean, I've got one up here which has got at the minute it's all vintage postcard, vintage photographs on there, like found photos and stuff. But every once in a while, I'll switch things around depending if something new comes into the fold or I'm feeling like a change. I'll switch things around because I switch the walls around as well. We've got sort of salon style. For ages, we had one really big piece in the lounge, which was great. But when that went, I've suddenly had loads of options. So, and I've kind of kept up with that. But I mean, I put something up the other day. So it's, yeah. But I do find that it's harder when you start collecting prints, you end up with more things to frame, or you'll go, I won't frame all that. I'll spend that money on another photograph.
Yes.
Or another piece of art. So that's my big bugbear. But books are always, I mean, I don't buy as many now, probably because I think I have a high, well, I think I got all my classics out of the way early on. Then I was in the right place to find the good stuff, like photographer's gallery for years. So I had lots of access. But now I've got to really be obsessed with it to buy it. Because I have so many, like, well, what do I need? Am I going to look at this? I'm going to keep looking at this over. It's same as a piece of work on the wall. If you're not paying attention to it, you're not learning something about it when you look at it. You're not enjoying it. It's just part of your surroundings. It's time to swap it. And I think that's really healthy to do that because I'm a visual person and that can inspire me. So like postcards in the studio when I'm working, they change quite a bit because certain things are inspiring me or
Yeah.
I'm seeing things or I'm discovering somebody, whether that's a photographer, a painter or whatever. So there's a photo realist painter that I sort of came across in about 2020 who I'm like, why did I not know about this person? And then I read and then I saw an interview with her and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then her her autobiography came out, and then she died 2 months later. I was devastated. But the highlight of the show at the National Portrait Gallery is one of those paintings of Marilyn that she did. Audrey Flack, don't know if you know her,
I know the name.
is in that exhibition, and that was worth seeing the show for me, seeing that one painting.
Oh,
But the
fantastic.
photography, it's great. It's what you expect, but for me, as somebody who's was really obsessed with Marilyn, I wanted to see something I hadn't seen before. There were a couple of things, but I wanted to see more tangible, interesting things. It wasn't about her. It was pictures of her. It wasn't about her. It was about the male gaze, the whole show for me. Even though a woman curated it, it felt like, here's a bunch of Marilyn pictures. There was one quote from her on a wall, but her voice, you didn't hear her other than a screen with clips from the films, and that's not Marilyn.
No, it's
That's
dialogue.
her acting a part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like my Eve Arnold, I adore because I know that her and Eve had this close relationship, but they also had this wonderful, like she had veto on any pictures that were taken of her. All the Magnum photographers who were on the set of the Misfits had to run their contact sheets by her. So the contact sheet I have has got the Chinograph where she's crossed out no and not crossed some and circled some. And they were yeses. And the images that are on that have never been published in anything. So they're really special to me. So I feel like I've got a little piece of the real Marilyn because they're offset. There's one on set, but there's one offset where she's basically messing around in a food truck with the catering guy. And it's just lovely because it's just, for me, it's those moments where they're not turned on that are more interesting. So when I put an image of Monroe in my book, I picked one where she doesn't have any makeup on and she's in a pool and all her hair's wet. So she looks completely different because that's a human being. And that's what great photography does. It can draw that out. And that was what I wanted. So, yeah. But anyway, I digress.
This
One
podcast
of
is
my
pure
obsessions.
digression. So
Yeah, welcome to my world. You have to keep guiding me back to topic.
Well, with that in mind, I suppose I've said your name. I actually haven't introduced you and what you do and
Okay.
and how we know you. So
Please do.
I know. Well, I first met you 2009, 2010 must have been.
Yeah, 2009 is when Dim and Noble opened. So yeah, it would have been 9 or 10 when we worked
Yeah.
together.
And we hung Jonathan Ollie's Castles of Ulster and Forbidden Forest.
Yeah.
And I remember my first day on the job was the
What
van
did I do?
the van turning up, and I was completely out of my depth. I had no idea what I was doing, and we just suddenly bringing all these beautiful big framed prints into the
And
gallery.
they were big pieces
They were
as well. Yeah,
huge.
they were heavy. Yeah, they were.
And there was kind of like a baptism of fire of how the gallery world works, because up to that point, all I'd ever experienced was like student exhibitions, which is
Yeah.
it's
Fair
fun,
enough.
it's relaxed.
What would you have? Yeah, but
Yeah.
what else would you have? I mean,
Exactly.
you were of an age where that's your experience.
Yeah, and very, very quickly I learned there was much more going on behind the scenes of a gallery.
It's a lot less glamorous than anyone thinks. It's not people flouncing about giving orders.
No, it's
I wish it was, but it isn't. It's usually get your hands very dirty. Well,
Yeah.
it is with me. I mean, I suppose blue chip galleries are slightly different, but the average gallerist has to, you have to be a jack of all trades. You have to be very fast thinking on your feet.
and then we did the George Rogers show, which I'll mention in a moment, because that's where Ben kind of came into this story as well. But before that,
Yeah.
you were at the Photographers Gallery?
Yeah, so I worked in the bookshop there, and then while I was there, that's when I started collecting. So I started, because we got a great discount, I started buying photographs, bit of money out of my salary each month until I had enough, and then I would get another one. And of course, along with that came going to things like Parry Photo, and obviously my knowledge of photography was exponentially growing because I was learning all this stuff because I'm a bit of a sponge, and because my background's in fine art, painting, sculpture, printmaking, etching, all that stuff. Photography was always present because my dad was imagine Dave Attenborough with a camera. That's my dad. My stepdad's really into that, so there was always a lot of photography at the house, but it was more, your Ansel Adams and 20 years worth of National Geographic and stuff like that. So a very masculine, kind of typical set. But his favorite photograph is Migrant Mother. So he's kind of obsessed with Dorothea Lange as well. And he's actually I actually sent him the sort of feminist take on it, which is really interesting. And he read that as well. So he's very open. But of course, it's what you're fed, isn't it? So yeah. And while I was working there, was because of the collecting and getting into it, my brain was feeling a little bit like hungry for something I could get my teeth into. And I started writing articles and reviewing books. And then I approached LIP, who then I reviewed for years. I did like a recommendations page because it's easy to cite something. It's a lot harder to say why you should buy something and what's good about it, like beyond the obvious. That's actually harder to do. You do tend to find a lot of critics sort of poo-poo things because it's easier to be bitchy about something than it is to actually say something meaningful that doesn't just sound like you're drooling over it, but there's a purpose to it. So I really got into the writing side of things. And my photographer, Vince Wade, who was head of photography at Kingston, where I went to uni, he was approached by a publisher to do a book on collecting photography around 2004, I think it was, something like that. And he said, "Oh no, I'm not the person." He said, "You need to go to Laura. She buys photography and she writes about it. I'm not." Like he didn't like the academic side of his job. It wasn't what interested him. And they approached me and they commissioned me to write the book. So 2007 was when that came out, by which time I was, I'd been collecting for like 6-7 years at that point, but I was really accruing a lot of knowledge because I was immersed in it. I was sort of 360. And because of that, like the person whose work's on the cover, Nita Madahar, was how I ended up being her sitter. because Stephen Gill suggested her work, because I was doing a chapter where I got asked different photographers or people in the industry to curate, to say what they would buy with a given spending amount at that time. And Stephen went for one of Nita's images. And when I saw it, the publisher had sent me lots of weird, really inappropriate covers, which were very boring, like photographers' signatures. It's like, it's a book about photography. You need a photo on the cover. I mean, I could go into a whole diatribe about that. Photo books without pictures on the covers. I know graphic designers love it, but they don't get picked up off the shelves as fast as ones with pictures do. Trust me, I sold them for 9 years. I can tell you straight, that's what you need to do. And Britain went, oh my God, this image, it's everything. He said, I was like, it does all the things. It's colourful. It's referencing Victorian wallpaper, like his art history, and it's a photograph. It's doing all the things. And then that's how I ended up meeting her when I went to see the work, and I bought a print. And, so the whole thing just sort of, if somebody had told me when I started working there, oh, you're going to write a book on collecting photography and it'd be used everywhere, I would have gone, what are you talking about? Absolute nonsense. So it's an accidental career, is what I was saying. Didn't go on purpose. And I still paint and I still make art, but it sort of grew. And that, being immersed in it, as selling it from the postcards to the books to everything else, right through to auction houses and museums and all those things, and being a model and mentoring people and all that. So I do get a really interesting full picture. So I think with galleries, everyone has an idea, but it's not real at all what they think it is. And as you know, it's a lot of graft.
Oh, it is
hard work.
I think,
and it's very unstable.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that came true when we were doing the George Rogers show. So this was to do with the release of the On the Road book that Jinx Roger released, from his diaries.
Yeah, amazing woman.
She was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it because we had all the Africa work downstairs, and she'd sort of come in and go, look around. It was her favourite George show ever, that show.
Was
it?
it?
This is my absolute favourite show, yeah. And she came in so many times during that, when that was on, and she would sort of mooch about and smile away, and then she'd go, I'm just going down to Africa. And then she'd go down the stairs and just, because we had things in that show that have never been seen before or since. So things like that picture of him with the banjo, and, he's 18 and his passports and all the ephemera.
I got lost for a whole. Yeah, I got lost for a whole day going through the diaries, looking at what would become the captions.
Like that book of his writing's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing and totally undervalued. So good, so beautifully written. Yeah, I mean, Jinx is an amazing person in herself. I mean, she commissioned, Steinbeck and Kappa to go to Russia, for crying out loud. Like we used to talk a lot about all kinds of stuff. But yeah. And if you just, like anyone who's dealt with a lot of people who are later a lot more famous, it's all very matter of fact because it's just what was happening at the time. But yeah, and she would say certain things that, Eve never print that large. She'd be furious about that. Things like that. You kind of think, the way photography is digested has changed so much in the last sort of 10 years with Instagram, with people looking at things on screens more than they do in the flesh, all those things. And again, that's also what I find difficult sometimes seeing exhibitions, if there's too many facsimiles and there's not enough of the original stuff, because I know what I'm looking at. Whereas maybe, if it's a blockbuster show, people just want to see big pictures on the walls, great. But I want to see the pictures that were actually taken at the time, because they're going to look different and they're going to be on different paper and they're going to have different qualities to them. And I can see if there were, if their printing was any good, if it wasn't, all those little nuances that you don't get from something printed yesterday, blown up huge and slapped on a wall.
Fingerprints and the dust and all of that.
All that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, the first thing you want to do when you look at something old is look at the back. Like, what's going on? Is there any information here? Like, I mean, I found a book which I got in Glasgow, I think it was, in this funny little bookshop where you could smoke in there back in the day. There were ashtrays everywhere. It was hilarious. So these two bookshops joined together. They had to open the other side with the art stuff. And I got this fantastic book about how to date photographs, and it was showing, all the clues, all the things to look for. It was fascinating because when I'm looking at something that's, vernacular, it's the source is gone, often long gone. So you're like, well, where's this from? What are the clues? What are people wearing? What kind of cars are there? What's the architecture? What sort of paper stock's it on? How's that person handwritten that? All these things come into play. What type of photograph it is. And it was a fascinating little thing. But yeah, apparently the people who worked there, so one of the people who worked there was a student, was a friend of mine, and they used to get paid in books. So it was totally illegal. But they used to get paid in books. So they get all their like books for uni, do shit. It's ridiculous. But places like that, I don't think it exists anymore. But finding books like that and like writing a book on collecting, people go, oh, you're going to do you're going to do a new one. I'm like, well, in a way, you want that book to date. You want to see those prices change.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see that things have altered. So the books I was using when I was doing my research were also out of date. Like back in the 70s, I could have bought a DNR bus for a couple of grand, a couple of $1,000. Like, it's like, oh, if I knew then what I know now, like, wow.
Yeah.
So you want to see that. You want to see that people are still around or not still around. So it's kind of, yeah, it's interesting but yeah, all my career, I think so far has been unexpected, really.
And then so I'm a little bit confused. So you've got the Laura Ann Noble Gallery, the LA.
The LA Noble Gallery,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's just me and working with photographers that I represent, whereby we do everything from putting on shows either here, abroad, being peripatetic. So finding spaces that fit the work rather than the work having to fit a space in the same way. And as a curator, it's more interesting for me to have more of a challenge to find the right space for something and the right venue. So I'm looking for a space at the moment that suits something that's from the 90s. So it's like, well, what's a good spot for this? Or what kind of thing could this be? How could this appear? In fact, I had a conversation today in God's Own Junkyard with a guy about my 90s rave t-shirts, and he said, oh yeah, that's worth about $3,000. And I was like, what? My t-shirts are worth thousands of pounds? Who knew? So anything's like, you never know, because I've got original stuff from back then. So yeah, and then with LA Noble, the people that I work with, it's usually a very long relationship. People come, people go. Some people like move away, or we don't work together anymore, or they have they've done a certain body of work and they're heading in a different direction. It varies. Majority of the artists I work with are female, but it's not set. It's good work. I've always had an education part of any sort of enterprise because I think that's really important. And also I found guest lecturing at universities, I've found that so many places don't teach the ins and outs of the industry. They're all very theoretical, which is great, but that's not how people in commercial galleries are talking all the time. They have to make sales, they have to pay for art fairs, they've got expenses to cover. So they have to find people whose work is going to appeal to their audience. And you're not really given any guidance on to how to find a gallery that might be interested in your work, how to approach a gallery. If you don't want to do the gallery model, what do you do? How do you present your stuff? How do you present a portfolio? All those things. And also as digitization has come in, a lot of those things has changed. So whenever I gave a lecture, I would get 2 or 3 emails from students go, I learned more in that 2 hours than I did in 3 years doing my degree, like every time without fail, because I've told them something that I take for granted. and think everybody knows, but they don't. So I started to realize that was really important, which meant, because the reason like the gallery started in the first place was I was basically spending every lunch break doing mentoring or portfolio sessions with photographers. And I thought, why am I doing this for free? This is madness. So I started to do it as sort of a side hustle, doing it as a consultation, because I was getting so many people asking for advice. And because I was saving them a lot of money in the long run, because they weren't going through all those obvious mistakes that people do go through, or money that they waste on things that they shouldn't. Sometimes it's just practical stuff, or knowing a supplier of a certain thing, or who to ask to print, or who's good at this, or who would suit you for that. All these things are what you gather over time.
Yeah.
So people were quite happy. I mean, I've only put my prices up once in about 15 years. Like, I'm really affordable compared to some of the other programs out there, which often are, and I've got the experience behind me. So they know my reputation will precede me, but also will follow me if I give you bad advice. Somebody will say, word of mouth's everything. Will say, well, don't ask her because I did this and this happened. So again, it's, there's accountability there. Yeah, and I love that. I've always enjoyed that. That started everything, and I've always enjoyed that because it's interesting to get in depth. I think that's because I do a lot of writing as well. I love that, digging deep into their work, what it's about, but also how you can translate that to an audience. Because as a punter myself, I get frustrated when I don't get the information I need, or it's not there if I want it, or it's been done in a way that's difficult or not very legible or hard to follow or feels clunky. A well-curated show shouldn't feel curated. You should just flow through it. You notice bad curation, you don't notice good. And that's how it should be. It should just feel right. And as somebody who's doing both now, I get very picky, which is what happens in any industry that you're in. You become more of a specialist. But I think, well, how would I do this? What would improve? And I was always trying to improve how I did things as well. So you'd learn as you go as well with certain things, what works, what doesn't, getting feedback, all that stuff. So yeah, so it's good because it's as the market has changed and there's a lot of smaller galleries are closing, which is still happening. And as you have to find access points to people and be realistic as well. I think the problem is if you're being at university and you're being told do this, do that, and they're leaving uni, usually the emails start about 6 months after university when the reality's hit. Oh, I'm not walking straight into a gallery and getting a solo show. Oh, I'm having to work at this other job. And they go, hang on, I've just spent 3 years studying this thing. What's going on? And it's like, well, this is why. Because you've not been prepared for the real world. Because often the people teaching you are in their world. They're in the world of academia, which is completely different from the real world. Operates in a completely different way. So if you want to follow that path, that's doable. But most people studying art aren't following that path. They're following another, and it's not catered for. So courses are closing. Photography's really, there have been quite a few courses closed in the last few years. And I think there's a lot of things that need to shift. I think it needs to catch up. And AI, I don't know what everyone's worried about, other than their work being stolen, which is hideous. That really angers me. But for me, I think people are going to find, because they're worried about things not being real, is that should be pulling in more audiences to actually go and see things. So I'm taking a positive stance on that. I'd rather know it was real and go and see it in the flesh.
I think that's true. There's, what's his name? Duncan Wardle. Have you heard of him?
Duncan Wardle.
He was the head of innovation at Disney for years.
Right, okay.
He's kind of the brain behind Toy Story originally, because he loved playing with cowboys and all this kind of stuff. And then the space race started, and you see that whole shift between Woody and Buzz. But he
Yeah.
now gives like TED Talks and so on. And he gave a talk to the company my wife was working for at the time, big conference thing. And she showed me a recording of it afterwards. And he talks about AI, and it completely calmed me down in terms of its place in the arts, because it has no place. It can't do imagination. It
No.
can't do creative thinking. It can't really do problem solving. It can only work with the information it has. So,
And there are 5 or 6 different ways of using AI. Like, people forget that it's used in other ways. Like, it's not just
yeah,
nicking your images and making a picture of Jesus riding a motorcycle. That isn't it. Because at the minute, I mean, to be fair, most people find, they're fiddling around getting cats to do, triple dives off diving boards. Like, it's a toy at the minute, which is what they said about photography. But it will find but unless it's making money for people,
the
then, because NFTs, they had their moment. Everyone was having a panic attack or thinking they were going to be a millionaire off those. That didn't happen.
Bubbles burst.
People lost money and they're still losing money with it.
Yeah.
So, because people aren't interested in that. Like you say, it's like going to an exhibition and buying a postcard. You want a little piece of that creative process in your life. It's not, you don't go, oh, well, let's get a digital file and take it home.
I still have.
You can't stick it on the fridge.
You can't stick it on the fridge.
No, exactly. You can't stick it on the fridge with your classy magnet of the Pope. Like, you just can't.
I think that's the headline
That's
for the
the
show.
earlier conversation.
That's the headline for the show. You can't stick it on the fridge.
But it's true. Like, we're visual creatures and we like to have it's a comfort as well. Because in the world of chaos and the world of digital, where your inbox never gets below 10,000 or whatever it is, you don't see the beginning, middle, and end. But when you see a product, something that somebody's created with their hands, there's something really satisfying about that. Especially, I mean, if you make it yourself, if you don't, like, either way, it's still like, it's an experience. It's a little bit of that experience. People take photos for different reasons. Both my parents take photographs. My dad takes pictures because he wants to take amazing photos, whereas my mum will take pictures. Her pictures are pretty good, but she takes pictures for the memory to mark that moment. That's her purpose. His purpose is completely different. He wants to take an amazing picture and compose it, but it also serves as a memory. So there's always a human factor there, even though it's a mechanical process, essentially. So it's important that that's, present. I don't think AI is going to do that, You won't be on your deathbed going, oh, if only I'd put more text into ChatGPT. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but those junior accountants, watch out.
Claude or whatever it is. I don't know. It's just, it is a bit of a crutch, and I know it's getting used a lot. And I know tutors are tearing their hair out a bit with essays where they're obviously being written by AI and they're spotted.
Yes.
But I mean, you can kind of tell though. I mean, that's the other thing, like with photographs, I'll start seeing a show, and then if I see too many facsimiles, I'll start getting the hump. Because I'm like, oh, when am I going to see a real photo? Like, I get annoyed about it.
Yeah. I had that with the Family of Man. Went to Luxembourg. My wife's from Luxembourg, and I was so excited. It's the Family of Man. It's like the ultimate photographic exhibition, and I was so excited. And we drove up to Clairvaux Castle to see the show, and everything is modern prints on MDF.
Oh God, no!
And
so modern prints on a substrate which isn't conservational either. Wow.
And
nice.
And there were a lot of them had like little chips in the sides of them and so on, and it was great to see the work in the scale of it and be surrounded by it, and it's curated really nicely. But I wanted to see 1950s silver prints.
Well, I mean, like, perfect example is Ansel Adams, because everyone thinks that his prints are going to be enormous, but they're not. The odds are the book you've got with his work in, the prints in the book are bigger than the originals. And that appreciation, and I understand it's nice to blow a couple up so you can see the amazing process that was involved, how incredible the printing was. But, it's not how it was. Like, I think it's a mixture of the commerciality of and the money that's involved now in paying exhibitions. I mean, your average big gallery, your big museum show is 25 quid entry. That's before you travel, before you have a cup of tea,
That's £50
feed the
alone.
kids, whatever. It's a lot of money. And, that's why they're hard on selling the memberships. But again, those are going to get to a point where, well, it's going to be packed with members. So what are you going to do then? I don't know. But I think that there's a tipping point, because yes, they're going to blow things up because people want to see those images. And we forget that the average person who isn't in the arts isn't seeing those images all the time. They're not as familiar with them. So it's all new and it's all very exciting. But there's a point where you think, yeah, but you can tell when someone's just doing it because it's cheaper.
When's
No, go on.
I was going to say, when was the last time you saw a really well curated exhibition that stuck in your mind recently?
Well, now you're putting me on the spot. For me, the things that really jump out are the things that are when I discover a new artist that I didn't know about, or Arl is always very good. There's always something really good there. I'm just trying to think of the last, because there's like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, a lot of things shifted and changed in the way that and what I go and see and what I get a chance to see. I might have to come back on that. I'm just trying to think what the last, because I have all my favorites in my head of the all-time like favorite shows. But in terms of the most, I'm just trying to think what I last, because I went to the Henry Moore place out in, not Hitchin, what's it called?
Yes, this nearby.
Yeah.
Was it the shelter paint? Was it shelter drawings?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, some of that I really liked. Some of it really ground my gears because, again, like there were certain, and whenever I go somewhere, I always ask the question somebody can't answer. It's like, I'm that person in the museum. I'm just trying to think what I saw in terms of my kryptonite at the moment. I'm just trying to think what I saw at the Royal Academy. Because I often find with big shows, they start off really well, and then the last couple of rooms look like the leftovers. Like they don't know what to do with this stuff that they put in there. Or the artist has kind of shifted gears and not quite got it right yet, and you can tell. So I tend to get excited about seeing a certain thing within a show. I'm just trying to think what I've seen. Let me get back to you on that one. I should have had a list of what I've seen recently, but I like the Henry Moore Institute, like the house where you can't take any pictures is fascinating because you can see this mixture, this perfect fusion of somebody totally immersed in what they do and having no hierarchy between ancient artifacts and contemporary objects. So there's a lot of mid-century modern furniture in there. You've got everything from fossils to little maquettes of his to a Degas like maquette sculpture, all mixed in with a bunch of stones and shells on a coffee table. They all have the same status. Now that was really exciting, and seeing how he lived and all this stuff, I thought that was really interesting. And also obviously being able to see things in the landscape. But then, as a sculptor, he's not my number one. I'd much prefer Hepworth to him. I think she pushed things much further, and he emulated her a lot. I mean, he did crib quite a few of her ideas early on. So it's quite interesting. Like, I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm relearning, I'm reappraising things. So like the Freud show that was on recently, I would have enjoyed that a lot more 20 years ago than I did when I went recently. Because as an artist and as a painter, my appreciation of painting has changed, and the way that I understand paint and drawing has changed and matured. So the things that used to impress me don't impress me as readily anymore. So it's often finding a gem within a group of things. I don't think there's been a show that's really kind of, yeah, it'll probably come when I'm not thinking about it.
Once we've finished.
Yeah, well, yeah. Once it's over, like, oh, there was that exhibition. Yeah, I don't have my diary handy to have a flick through and see what I've been to see
Did you go to
and
the
find
Sony
it.
Photography Awards?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't been able to see that. I've had been busy doing an exhibition with my own painting recently, so I've been sort of all over the shop. I went to Photo London, obviously. Saw that. That was interesting. New venue, I think was a lot more forgiving for the exhibitors than the visitors. I think the location is very particular.
Do you think because it was all on site, kind of in the same environment and all on one level, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I think it was easier to find your way around. Somerset House was great, but unless you know it, it can be a bit of a head mess your
It's a
head
bit of a
around.
maze.
Yeah.
But having said that, it also has the open piazza where you can sit and have a drink. You can meet up with people, which the new venue didn't really in the same way. But on a technical sort of thing, having shown at Somerset House, the technicalities of getting work in and out of the building is so not what you expect. It's a lot of work. And you have very short time slots in which to get the work there and deliver it and get it into the building. They have to do very short, like half-hour time slots to get things in because it's this tiny area that you can bring a car around or a van, offload and go. So from that respect, Earl's Court has got all that set up. So thinking about whenever I go to a fair and stuff, I think about both sides of that coin. What is more, what is easy, what isn't, and also what's nearby. So like once you got in, you couldn't go out and come back in again. Which if you want to go out somewhere to eat, you couldn't. You had to eat in there. So then that kind of didn't really work for me because I have a tendency to sort of keep going. And then I have to stop and go, right, get out of the space for a bit, clear your head, go back in. But I couldn't do that. So that was, and also because I bump into so many people I know. Like I had a meeting with some people and then just got constantly interrupted as people walk past and went, hi, Laura, hi, Laura. So again, it's like finding a quiet spot wasn't as easy to do that. But, exhibition wise, like there was some interesting work there. But I feel like I probably would have gone for more days if it had been easier because I live at the other side of London. So again, location makes a difference too. But it was good. I think like with any fair, when there's a big change, it'll take a year or two to get its feet under the table and feel like it's how it should be. So for the first edition, they did a really good job. As a VIP, there weren't many events that other than tours of it, there weren't as many things on connected that I could get to, to go to. So yeah, there's a mixture, I think it was much better for the books. I think the book area was great because they weren't sort of in a corridor like you're queuing for something rather than looking that you could move around. And I thought that was really good. I think that made a difference. I think the book people were very happy there. Whether or not that equated with sales, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think if it's handy. I bought a really interesting little book, which I don't think is handy, by a young photographer, which was really interesting, sort of photographing their landscape, which was really good. But yeah, I think there's more interesting things going on sometimes in publishing because there's a lot of shifts. There's a lot of vanity publishing, unfortunately, but that's going to happen. But I think people are trying to find new ways. Like zines coming back has been a very telling thing because obviously it's cost. It's more affordable to do, but with that comes accessibility, comes experimentation. So I think it will take time for the big institutions to really catch on. Like the Wellcome Collection did a show on zines, but in terms of photography, those boundaries are starting to, what is photography is happening again. It's like being asked again. So I think that's interesting. And I think what you see in a photography show, I remember going to a graduate show and thinking the closest that anything came to a photograph was a video. So it's quite interesting that things are shifting a lot, and how it's quite interesting because if you bridge both worlds, like the art world and painting and all that and sculpture, and then you look at the photography world often thinks it's doing something new, but it's something that the fine art world's been doing for a long time, like collage, for example, or, and it's like finding the best version of that thing might be in either world. So I think a lot of stuff that I've seen lately, it's been looking at stuff where things have come up unexpectedly and gone, oh, like going to see the Monroe show and seeing this great painting, which I didn't realize was in the country, which I thought I'd never get to see in the flesh. And there it was. I was like, whoa, this is cool. So that got me really excited. But the exhibition I didn't really enjoy. But there's swings and roundabouts, But that's my specific interest, So yeah, I'm a picky customer.
But being picky is how you've made such a great reputation for yourself as a curator. Is that attention to detail. And Ben and I, we've worked together in a college for several years now. Worked at different places. Ben's helped me hang some of my shows in the past. He's done his own shows. When we do the student exhibitions, I always think back to the curation advice, and even just those little like off the spur of the moment comments, they always prop up. And in terms of how we're looking at the space and what work goes where, and dealing with the prima donnas of 16-year-olds who think they're the next great thing, and their work has to be in exactly the right spot.
Is always a test.
Yeah.
Any show, whether it's graduates or adults or professionals, a group show, you will always get one or two divas in the show every time, who will take up 80-90% of your bandwidth, where everyone else is totally fine. And you think, why am I doing this? Because you're doing it for the great, but you have to kind of go, look, this is how it is. You have to set some boundaries from the get-go. But yeah, there's always a couple that you just feel like, the
way I explain it, which seems to work, I came to this a couple of years ago, is you spend all that time composing the photograph, thinking about how everything sits in the frame. This room is my frame now. I'm working out where all the elements go to make the room look good.
It's your frame, Tom.
It's my frame.
Yeah.
And also that thing of just because you've got more wall doesn't make it better. Like, if the work doesn't flow and if something feels... I mean, I did a show in a space of my work and people thought that the gallery had been changed hands because the space was usually used where people overfilled the space and salon styled it to the point where it was just, you just didn't see anything because there was just too much stuff. I pared everything back, really thought about where things needed to be, what was going to grab people's attention in the window, how you maneuvered around the space, how close you could get to something, what needed to go where. And they were like, I was like, no, it's the same people. And I'm like, my God, it feels completely different. And it's amazing how different you can make a space feel by putting things where they need to be.
Yeah.
And, it's like a living space. You wouldn't put your cooker in the middle of the room for an obvious reason, but people think I think it's because it's quite competitive. I always tell people, less can be more, but also rather than doing loads and doing, like, if you, especially like with a degree, you spend 3 years doing this and then you're just going to slap something up on the wall, badly mounted, unframed. Like, you've gone to all this trouble getting this qualification, spend a decent amount of money and put 1 or 2 great, beautiful quality prints, beautifully framed, well presented, and you will do so much better than putting a dozen things up that look half-hearted and uncared for. Because if you don't care about your work, no one else is going to. Like portfolio review, when people sort of, I'll ask them, do you want me to wear gloves? Like I'll have some nitrile gloves with me, or telling people don't use cotton gloves because they scratch your prints if they get grit on them. Things like that. They're not told. They just say, oh, they're supposed to do this. They go, oh. And if they go, oh, no, it's all right. I'm like, well, if you don't care about this, why should I? You're here to try and show me your work. Do you want fingerprints all over your prints? Probably not. So it's like that thing of how you present. And if you present with care, you get some of that care back. If you don't, it's underappreciated. All the work and blood, sweat, and tears that go into it is futile because it looks haphazard or unthought through, But yeah, I mean, your students must love and hate you, but the end result will, is the end result is the end result. And if it's like, well, oh yeah, I told you so, there you go. Happy day.
When Ben and I used to do it together, it was very much a good cop, and they loved Ben, and they all loved Ben, and they always moan about me and Paul because we're the ones that say no to them the most.
Well, I mean, I always tell people no is a complete sentence. Like, stick with that. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, like there's reasons. I mean, I've had discussions like with photographers where I've gone, this is why I'm curating it this way. And I've drawn diagrams and gone, yeah, this is because I want this to diagonally with this and this. I'm like, oh, you've really thought this so much. Yeah. Like it's a process, I mean, my process probably takes longer than most, but it's my process and it works for me.
But do you think it's also because you've got an overview and they're always speaking from experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's personal.
In your work, yeah. It's your work, it's your baby, and you don't see the bigger picture.
No, exactly that. And you don't necessarily think about the person viewing it. I'm always saying, look, there's certain things that you need to think about with scale. Everyone thinks big is best, not always. Something that is taught to painters, but probably not to photographers and should be, which I've said a million times, but every time I say it, I go, never heard of that. The best place to stand in front of an artwork is the same distance as its longest side. Think about that. Makes sense, right?
I'm just looking around my room. Hang on. Yeah.
Yeah. So to really get in, so you want something small, you want somebody to get close to it, you want them to step away from it. That's why I love squares. That's why I love a meter square, because you make another meter square when you stand in front of a meter square. So it's like there's a certain, how someone's going to view it. So I remember seeing the massive Gursky exhibition at the Hayward Gallery. Fab show, apart from one inclusion where they had a huge, as is Gursky's work, a huge picture. I can't remember what the picture was now. And if I'd stood at the right distance away from it, I'd have gone backwards down this flight of stairs. I was like, which idiot put this here? I can't even see it. Unless I want to take a dive down this stairwell. Because they put it in a space which you couldn't stand far enough back from to observe the work. That's a no-brainer.
It's pretty hard job trying to find a small work of his. No.
Don't put it in there. Don't put it there. Don't put it in. But, select. So it's those things that, grind my gears.
I'm just thinking through shows that I've been to. Admittedly, not that many recently because of, work, family, so on. There's not much time.
Yeah.
But I went to the Joel Mayovitz show at Somerset House. And I went to his talk as well, which is absolutely amazing.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
And some of the rooms of the Sony Awards kind of left me cold. Some rooms, I just ignored everything except a single photograph and just went straight to it. And there was, in the Joel side, so in the other wing, there was, in one of the little side rooms, they had like a video bits running. And it was floor to ceiling. And I couldn't walk into the room. because it was so big. It was, and I realised that it's because of what you said, but it was so big that I couldn't actually go in the room and look at it fully. And I was watching it through the doorway from essentially the other side of the gallery.
Yeah. And it is, you have to think about it's a bit like the architect who's so busy thinking about the way a building looks, they forget how it functions. You know, there's a very well-known architectural school, which is a bit of a wonder in Hackney, but there's so many windows in it. Inside, it's incredible. It looks amazing. But when summer hits, it's a greenhouse and the kids are just melting in there because it's windows everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, the way something looks and the practicality of it, you have to have form and function together because, people don't sit through the whole film. Or they don't enjoy it in the way that the artist intends it. I mean, that's where you have to sometimes go, right, this isn't going to work this way, or how do we do this? Okay, you want it immersive, but it needs the space to do that. I mean, that's why I think Arl is very good for the way in which they can stage things, because they have these huge spaces that they can really play around with, especially in the shed. But, it it's a luxury space. So I think it's very difficult for people to kind of get those things right sometimes because those things are limited. And, a built up city, and Somerset House very much wasn't, I mean, it was the headquarters tax office, wasn't it? So it was never made as a gallery space. It wasn't designed to be a gallery space. So they're having to work around. But again, if you're going to do that, you have to address that accordingly to be able to get the most out of it. But sadly, you've got commercial factors in there and costs. So it's like offsetting those, but still getting a great experience. I think it's hard. It is hard. I think places like Serpentine North do some really interesting things. I think that it's a really interesting space because they have that sort of pause with the central gallery spaces that cut through, as well as the large spaces where you can step back from the walls. Those little quiet moments there, you go at the right time of day, and that's a wonderful gallery to be in. Whitechapel's great for light because it's got those lovely lights at the top, but how it's curated sometimes can feel a little, it varies from exhibition to exhibition. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think because there's a lot more digital as well now, there's a lot more film being shown in galleries. That's also a difficult one to do because do you have a dedicated room? Like, perfect example, and Steve McQueen early work with, what's he called? Not Charlie Chaplin, the other one hanging off the clock. What's his name?
Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton. So the classic Buster Keaton where the house falls on him, yeah? So McQueen's version of that, when it was initially staged, it was at the ICA back in the 90s. Incredible show, that was. And you went into a room which was completely pitch dark. There wasn't a single bit of light in the room. And you all lined up against the wall. And then the light came on, and then this house fell on. And everyone kind of jumped and laughed. And then you were in the film. And it was great. It was just a black cube. Now then he was up for the Turner Prize, and that film, I think it was in Tate Modern. And of course, because of the space and a bigger audience, they did the film on a wall, but they had to have like an open pathway. So there was always light coming through the space. So that piece during that exhibition, that particular edition of the Turner Prize, just didn't have the impact at all that it had in that ICA space. And I noticed when he had the big retrospective at Tate a couple of years ago, I was looking forward to seeing that piece again, and it wasn't included. And I wonder if that's why, because I was looking forward to seeing that piece again, but it wasn't there. So it's interesting, like, maybe he was like, I don't want to compromise. Obviously I wasn't a fly on the wall in that room, but it makes me wonder, because I remember myself having seen both and experienced both, the difference was really palpable, and how much I enjoy. There's nothing. Whether you're doing a show with a few people or one person, it has to be an experience of some description that you're going to take home with you. And how do you do that? How are you fair to everybody, but also show their work in the best light? And a lot of that comes through long periods. So maybe that's why it wasn't included, because he just was like, no, if we can't do it this way, it's just, I'd rather not include it and include more new things. Fine. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that's why photography's always been, it feels more accessible because we can all take pictures, but it's also its worst enemy because, again, people don't necessarily appreciate it as much as they should, because we all take photos. Doesn't mean they can take good photos, but everyone can take a photo, but not everybody knows how to do an aquatin, for example, so that they see things in a different way. So you have to work that bit harder, I think, because you're relying on less knowledge, essentially, because there's more knowledge in a general sense, but less knowledge in a more detailed sense. And that's where things get interesting. I think that's why a lot of the things that are happening now are going to be shifting things. What we expect from a photography show has changed, I think. Museums are still doing the same thing a lot of the time, but I think other, spaces are doing more interesting things. And, the museum has to do things in a certain way because there are restrictions there, and there's insurance, and there's more visitors, and there's a whole bunch of things they've got to take into consideration that a smaller space doesn't, So, yeah.
When we worked together, that was almost 20 years ago. And I know.
It's unacceptable. But I'm still looking like I'm 21, right, Paul?
Absolutely.
We're not.
Oh, it's unacceptable. I can't believe I didn't think I'd ever make it to 50, so I'm kind of like, well, I'm still here. Don't know what's going on, but fine. Yeah, so what did I...
So the gallery was very much, it was, the big, or sizable prints, not necessarily huge, but sizable prints. Meticulously framed, maybe some display cabinets in terms of the George Roger exhibition, and that was kind of the norm. The only thing that was on display at the time there that was kind of different to that was Emily Allchurch, where she had her light boxes.
Yeah.
Which was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So
like those light boxes of, she's kept up with the technology for those.
Yeah.
So they have LEDs now, there's no hotspots, all those things.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because technically there are so many light boxes in photography that are really not fit for purpose or were made by the artist that now are problematic, because it's like, if you change a light bulb, is it still the work? Blah, 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 all this stuff,
And
Jeff Wall, for example.
because of the quality of her prints and the light boxes, then I remember that when I did my masters and I had my master's show, I got my printing done at Spectrum because I was so impressed by what they'd done for Emily years before.
Yeah.
Also, they were cheaper for what I wanted than anyone else. But there we go. So between 15 odd years ago and now, your gallery doesn't have walls. You use spaces that are available and most suitable for the work, which is quite an exciting way of doing things.
Sometimes there's a show going on in the UK and another one going on somewhere else as well in another country. So I think in 2018 at one point I had shows in Naples, Hull, and London at the same time at one point.
What do you think is the biggest shift in how you think about curation between back then and now in terms of how photography and display has evolved?
I think you have to factor in that everyone's got a phone and everyone's going to be taking pictures of pictures. I think the thing to do is to try and slow people down, take them on a bit of a journey. So, for example, when I curated Photo 50 at London Art Fair, that was really interesting because, that's gone now, but I was given a set space. I was told I could change the wall arrangement. I could alter how it was, and I could think about it however I wanted, and they would build it. So that was great. And so I decided with that show, which is something I couldn't have done in the gallery, that I wanted it to take people from outside, inside, into a personal space and a personal psychological space, and then beyond, like the physical self. So the wall on one side went from dark to white. So they started off dark blue and they got light. But the way the walls were arranged, you had to literally snake through to get through the exhibition. So again, you had to, and the walls were on angles. So I was creating these miniature sort of spaces you had to walk into. And what I found afterwards, I think people got so immersed in that space, we got tons of press for that show, which was amazing, was that a couple of times somebody go, oh yeah, so-and-so's and the way, such and such and the way they were framed. I was like, those weren't framed. They were vinyl on a wall. And in their head, because they'd appreciated and the prints were done beautifully to the best, went to Genesis and they did an incredible job. They were curated in the way that, like, we had models in there. So I had miniature exhibitions which Kim had done, which were these sort of miniature spaces where she was sort of like, oh, I can't curate. I'm never going to be in a big show, so I'll curate my own miniature gallery. Now, when I saw those, I went, these are great. And they're like, oh, I didn't think of these as a thing. I'm like, no, this is the thing. This is interesting. So to actually bring in more three-dimensional things and more opinions and approaches to photography, I think the things that have changed is the structure. So there's less, the rules have stretched a bit. So, like, for example, Elizabeth Hayat, who was in that exhibition, Photo 50, she has these incredible silver gelatins, which are 1.5 meters big, like 2 by 1.5 meters. They're enormous. Now, to ship those over from New York was going to be more than the whole budget of the show. So we had to find a way to do those here. And she came over from New York and oversaw the printing of the vinyl, and they were gorgeous. And they were stunning. So that was, but interspersed with that, there was also other pieces which were on other different substrates and different things. So the blend of those things made it really engaging. And the whole last room was black and white and had a seat so you could sit and contemplate the work and feel like, and people really gravitated towards that. They would go through the exhibition a certain way and they would end up sitting at the end and being in this zen space at the end. And that was wonderful. So I think the openness to how you stage things has changed. I think people are taking a few more risks. They're realizing that you do need to bring things off the walls and into the center of the room a bit more. And just because it's a photo doesn't mean it has to be in a frame or flat on the wall. It can do other things. Yeah. I think that is shifting and shifting. And I think that I think there's been a lot, you have to look at it from a creative perspective as well as an industry thing, because if you look at the market, you see where the trend and some of the gimmicks come about. Like, oh, this photographer's put a splash of paint on it, so therefore each piece is unique. Well, great, but what does the splash of paint mean? Oh, okay, it was about their dream. Oh no. Like, no. To me, that's just somebody trying to make some money, because by saying it's a unique print, there's less of it, it's more likely to sell. It means that that's trying to sell a print. It's not about the creative process at all. So it's finding and picking out when someone's doing that and when someone's not. And it's finding, I think the key thing is that curators have to not just look at what other curators are doing. They have to do a bit more digging and investigate themselves and see good work. Just because someone's being shown doesn't mean it's the best example of that thing. I think seeing more, but I think it's hard. For some people, it's harder and hard. Picture editors don't see exhibitions anymore at all. they see press releases. They get the top 10 big shows, and then if you're lucky, they'll put something quirky in. But generally, it's the same. You see the same exhibition over and over again in every newspaper, in every magazine, because there's a lot of pay to play. Oh, they're buying advertising, therefore they'll get a feature. So again, you got to dig, and I think those unusual spaces are doing unusual things. Smaller spaces, even higher spaces where artists are hiring out. What are they doing? What's interesting? What's new? Some of it works, some of it doesn't, but you don't find out by being safe. And I think commercial galleries have started. Some commercial galleries that have been around for a while are starting to do that more and more, and finding with a mixture of success. Like taking a chance is one thing, but taking a chance with some knowledge is another. And there's good versions and bad versions of everything. So I think that's where it's changed. Very long answer to your question.
That's a good answer.
But I think that's where it's changed. I think the structure is more fluid than it used to be. It's less strict and it's less uptight. Thank God. My God, I mean, it's kind of interesting because all the big heads of museums are still men and the curators are usually women. But I think there's more interesting things going on lower down the pecking order where people have got room to take a few more chances. And I think that's good. But art trails and, where you get, like, there was one in Hackney, there was one in Walthamstow, like where you've got open studios and people are trying things and doing things. You can see some great stuff that way that you're not going to stumble across on Cork Street.
Yeah, Ben, you did an art trail or part of an art trail a couple of years ago, didn't you?
Yes, I think it was 2 years ago. It was a local one, but it was outside and it was up for seemingly months, I think. Yeah, and it was nice. It was and you had various things whereby it was in the elements. So there are things you can control for, things that you can't control for, and sometimes it was a case of just letting go and accepting that the work might get ruined, or might not. The context of it all as well.
Yeah, and variety as well. I think there's a guerrilla artist who puts things up and cements things to walls in East London. They're just part of this furniture now. But back in the day when they first started doing it, and they've done it in Hull, and I've seen it bobbing up and around. I'm like, oh, there they are again. So there's stuff out there. It's just, and there's always like terrible stuff and really good stuff in these things. Especially local things. But I remember going to a show in someone's living room where the guy was obsessively drawing what looked like spirograph drawings. Remember spirograph? Pretty young. But they were more linear rather than circles. And he obsessively did these things. And everyone wanted to buy them. And he was not selling them. He was having none of it. It's like, no, I'm not selling them. It's like, this is just for my own enjoyment. We're like, okay, but they're great. We really want one. But it was fascinating. What a great thing to have seen. I wouldn't have seen that anywhere else other than his front room. So great,
But they can't they?
Yeah, and they spark ideas and they kind of make you think about how you look at things, and it can be anything. But if it's engaging, you wouldn't, if you're taking it home, you're still thinking about it. I mean, I always think about that when I'm buying something. If I'm still thinking about it the next day, if it's still bothering me, because you can get very carried away in the moment. And again, like if I'm looking at portfolios and doing portfolio reviews and you're doing one after the other, 20 minutes, whether it's online or in person, you can get very excited about something. But then the next day, I'm not as excited as I was right then. And I'm now looking at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's good. But there are some that still stick in my mind. There's a few people like I've had to try and track down years later because it's still bugging me. So it happens. And
we've had those conversations, haven't we?
Yeah.
Bradley Richards.
Yeah, exactly. Bradley. And, there was a really interesting artist, Falmouth, who was doing some it wasn't meant to be because his father was sick, but he had this, he did things in his sleep and he was recording it. I was really interested. And he had OCD, so he was doing repetitive things in his sleep. including smoking, like an entire pack of cigarettes. That's how he started doing it, because he accused his
Wow.
flatmates of smoking his cigarettes, and it turned out he was smoking them in his sleep. And it started this. It's an amazing thing. I've still got all the information. Should he be able to, there's some fascinating stuff out there. But yeah, I think portfolio reviews are great. I mean, often what I often end up doing, so people I'm mentoring, what often happens is I either meet them when I'm reviewing a group portfolio thing, or they book one session and then they want to come back. They want more information. They realize, because it is a relationship, they realize there's a connection. And often what happens is, I'll see something on Instagram and I'll ping it over to them, and, 9 o'clock at night or something, oh, that's perfect for so-and-so. They're looking at that. So it becomes an ongoing thing. And that's really interesting. Seeing people very early and now showing at Tate and stuff is really exciting. And those crossovers, because you bump into each other again, be nice to people because you'll meet them again. You're never too important. There's no such thing. Everyone's the same as far as I'm concerned. But I do, I've had students who were really rude to me at their graduate shows. And I thought, well, don't want to work with you then. And then I've bumped into them and they've got, oh, okay. Oh, first impressions go a long way. So there's all kinds of I think there's great work out there. You just got to find it. It's got to dig. And if it isn't great and they need to move forward, having the tools to offer to say, well, think about this, critically think about this, laterally think about that. I think there's a mixture of lack of practical knowledge and market knowledge, because you can be as arty as you like, but if you're not selling anything, it's a tough world out there. And photography is especially difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's reproducible. Even though prints are, etchings and things like that additioned, it's still seen as a less available thing. So it's still a tougher market. So yeah, to do good, you've got to dig.
We had an artist come and give a talk last year or the year before at the college. Can't remember her name now. And I didn't like her work. But
not like everybody's.
I know. But there's one thing she said which really struck home, and it made perfect sense. And she said to the students that overnight success is 10 years hard work.
At least.
Yeah. And it is that, you go into university and you can think, as you say, you come out, go straight into a job.
Yeah.
And you come out of university and you're not going straight into a job. And actually, it is 10 years of making those contacts, making those connections, being nice to people, being approachable, taking that weird part-time job in an office along the sides. And
hell yeah. And also, knowing how to write an email.
Yeah.
I had to explain to an MA student not that long ago, was 2 years ago, what a signature on an email was.
Right. Yeah.
If you're a photographer and you want to get booked, put your phone number on your website, because if you've got to fill in a form, a picture editor's just going to go to the next website. Curators often look at Instagram feed because it's a quick shortcut way of having a quick overview of what that person does. And then they go onto their website and they go through the series one by one. But if they have a quick glance and go, nah, they can speed things up, the process. So think about that. You don't have to have 50 billion followers, but you see it as a tool, a necessary evil, whatever you want to call it, and go, okay, if I have my general wares up here, people can see it at a glance. I mean, I asked that question. We had a panel discussion with photo, and I sort of went through these different curators, and I said, do you look at Insta? Yeah, we do. Because it's always about having to get through a lot of material in a short space of time and get to the good stuff. And if something grabs their attention, then they'll slow down and then they'll look more deeply. But if at a glance it does seem of a certain standard or subjectively not what they're looking for, then they can go, okay, this isn't right, but that looks interesting. I'll keep a note. Like I will remember people 5 years after I've seen their work. Once I've seen a picture, I remember it. It's very useful in my own. And if you showed me a portfolio today of 99 pictures and then 3 years later put an extra one in, I'd spot the extra one and go, I haven't seen that one. Like it happens to me all the time. But it's, you know, I remember that stuff. If it's good, it'll stay. It'll stick. And I think that, yeah, but you do need that time test, because often you think, well, I want to put this show together and I need a bunch of people who are photographing this thing or this subject. And then you're getting a group of different people together. And it might be somebody you saw 10 years ago and you see if they're still doing that, you know. And also, especially graduates, in 5 years, most of them aren't doing it. They're doing something else, because between 1% and 5% of the class will still be photography. Right. So again, the odds of you jumping straight into a career straight out of university are quite slim, because you might not stand the test of time. And if somebody's going to be investing in your work and paying for it, if you're going to disappear after a career of 5 years, they're not going to get a return on their money. I mean, for me, it's not about returns. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the work. But every once in a while, you think, well, I'm not really getting much from this anymore. I want to sell this piece, and that money will go into buying another thing. So it all comes and goes and flows back and forth. So it's, you know, if you don't think that artist is going to be around in a few years' time, you're probably not going to spend the money, or not very much. So again, it's like, what's your pricing? How are you auditioning? Are you using the dreaded G word? Please don't. I've had so many conversations about the G word. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Tom?
I do.
You know, so things like that. Yeah. And it sort of tells, because people are looking for clues. Is it quality? What are those clues? Is it the way it's framed? Is it the way it's presented? Is the caption informative? I mean, you know, museums do it all the time. Like, what type of print is it? I have to look and find out for myself, because it's not written down. Just this photographic print. And I'm like, no shit, Sherlock, but what is it? Like, come on. Like, I need more than that, you know? So, yeah, you know, you wouldn't just put paint on canvas, would you? Paint on fabric. So why would you put photographic? You'd put oil on linen, or whatever it is. Like, you'd be specific. So things like that are, yeah. And also the shtick, you know, I can tell when somebody's made up the theory after they've made the work.
The RTBS.
Students.
Like, that is not how that was created. You just made that up afterwards to try to justify why you did.
Yeah, we always see that one quite a lot in education, unfortunately.
Art speak, man. Whoa.
Yeah.
Juxtaposition, my least favourite word in the English language, always used in the wrong context. Right, you know, but see that word, I'm like, the hackles go up. I start to hiss.
Yeah, the word that gets me is unique, because it's always used as a cop out by my students.
I know, the latest word on trend, liminal. If I have to hear that word, I am straight over that word. Stop using it. Stop it. It's like, oh, it's like a rash. You just can't get away from it. No, liminal, no. So yeah, no, those are my two least favourites. Subject to change. There might be a new one that I'm not aware of.
You need
so
to
in
make
the comments, I don't know.
International Art English Encyclopedia or Dictionary. Bring that out.
Oh, actually, and it's grammar rather than artistic. Oftentimes, something happens often or it doesn't. You don't need to add the word time to it to make it relevant. Oh, people are starting to use it here, and it's not good. Like, I know it's an Americanism, but stop it, right?
There we are.
There you go. And the G word, which we shall not speak.
Okay, so I think, well, yeah, about an hour and a half. I think we should wrap this up.
Good Lord. You're going to have a lot of editing to do.
No, I'll keep it all. It's great.
Oh, my God. Maybe we're playing for an hour and a half. Well, good luck. Everyone will fall asleep halfway through. Hopefully you've got some answers of what you wanted to know. I don't know. Yeah.
It's really, really
It's
interesting.
informative.
Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna
obviously you've
listen
just
back
taken a
to it.
show down. What's coming up? What's coming up for LA Noble Gallery?
So I am looking. Well, I don't know if you know Misha Haller. He's just done a fantastic couple of books about images that he took in the 90s. Of Not Going Home Yet. So after Glastonbury and after being out all night raving. And he sort of unearthed these images, and they're fantastic. So we're looking for the right venue at the moment to show those. So that would be really cool. And the book, I mean, the first edition sold out like overnight, and he's done another edition. He's probably gonna have to do a third. So yeah, those are great. Look at Misha Haller because his stuff's fat. I've just taken down an exhibition today of my work, so that's been quite all encompassing. So yes, I'm working on that. I'm also working on a podcast, but that's been in the works for a while. But that's not strictly photography. That's a mixture of things, but will include very creative people. So yeah, so that's and yeah, looking for interesting work actually, because I feel like I want to see some new things. So I'm always obviously there've been graduate shows and stuff, but with the heat, I didn't get to as many as I wanted. So yeah, looking at some interesting stuff, and mentoring as well. I mean, lots of mentoring because obviously there's quite a few photographers who want to then publish. So sometimes I end up writing essays for those things because I'm doing some portfolio reviewing for the Griffin Museum. Nice. That'll be online in September, so that'll be interesting. So again, good because I get to see some international stuff. And Americans approach photography in a different way to the Europeans. It's always very interesting to get that comparison. Yeah, so that's what's happening at the moment. So never a dull moment. Yeah. And finding the right spaces is not an easy thing, and getting it right. Because with Misha's work, it's like, well, we want to have a bit of a party in a way as well, because it's that whole thing of. So the show I just did, we had a big opening and DJs and all sorts, and it was a lot. But yeah, Misha's very much needs that. It needs sort of the energy, and it's very popular. So watch this space on that.
Oh, I look forward to that. Okay, well, Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed my glass of beer and chat with you immensely.
It's good to have a proper chat again.
I think that sounds like that sounds like. I mean, you don't need to twist my arm, I should.
And Ben, obviously,
I am not an alcoholic. And and what about you guys? You've got more stuff.
Well, yeah. So I've just done my book. So So yes,
exciting.
Like Paper Time is now available at Analog Wonderland as well as for my website. So it's available in 2 places online. Very exciting.
Very cool.
Ben, what about you? You've always got some little projects on the go.
Well, I am waiting for the summer holidays to finally kick in properly, and I can actually try and make a piece of work.
There's a novel idea. There's a treat for you. I know how that feels because I have to juggle a lot. I know exactly how that feels. It's not easy. I have many a session working till 2 a.m. So I completely get that. But if I woke up and had nothing to do, I'd die of the shit. I'm not kidding. That's how I'm going.
Ben, is this summer going to have that homemade camera in use?
Oh, it already has. It's on the tree in the garden.
That was okay.
Oh yes, decided to try and do an old solar can thing at work, and it's currently cable tied to a tree outside. We'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah. Okay, so it's in the street.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so maybe not that long.
Yeah. I'm not putting too much faith in it, but we'll see. Bit of fun.
Let's see. Oh, fingers and toes. All right, fingers and toes crossed for you. Oh, that's cool. Well, hopefully see the results of that. No.
And I'll say, Toby, hope all is well.
Yeah,
when you hear this,
I did have a little chat with him via text earlier on.
Cool fella.
He's high on morphine, but he immediately reached for a camera. So there is
he's probably having the best time out of it, all of us.
I know. There's a photo of him on Instagram where he's hasn't been out of surgery more than an hour, and he's got the Olympus XA in his hand, and he's already photographing.
Yeah, I mean that makes a change because usually people are professing their undying love to their surgeon when they come round, aren't they? And it's all gets very embarrassing, and they don't realise till it's too late. But yeah, I've been.
So yeah,
Well, that
hopefully he will be
bombshell,
back
Lee.
soon. But
Yeah, well, yeah, get well soon. All right. Well, lovely to chat to you guys. Yeah. Any complaints, field them my way. It's all good.
All right, thank you both.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to ask any specific questions or mentoring or anything like that, just DM Instagram. Yeah, if there's something that think I want to do this.
I'll make sure I put all of that in the show notes at the bottom as well.
Yeah, because it's it's really nice. It's probably the thing I enjoy, sort of, other than the work. It's that seeing that progression is so lovely, and seeing those things, and also those milestones, not just career wise, but creatively, seeing things shift and change and get exciting. Sometimes it is just about having a boost and having a new fresh pair of eyes on your work and injecting that enthusiasm again, because it's hard work and it's tiring and it's
I don't know if you remember this.
So it's really can be a bit miserable when you're kind of trying to get momentum and everything sort of going on. So yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but when I worked at the gallery for you, you offered a portfolio review to me.
Oh yeah.
And I turned you down. I know, because I was
crazy.
I know. We were surrounded by the life and work of George Roger.
I was a bit intimidating.
Yeah, I was insanely intimidated about.
Well, maybe we should have that session soon then. That would be interesting. Why not? I'm going.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Brilliant. That would be a podcast in itself.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, slag me off online. There we go. Right.
No, I'll do that off camera. No. No, I'm up for that. I'm definitely up for that.
Cool. We'll sort something out then.
Brilliant. All right.
I have to tidy up now as well. There we go.
Oh, no, things have changed. All right. Well, lovely to see you both. And hopefully we'll see each other in person.
Definitely. All right.
Oh,
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.